it's Nancy from Nancy Chu Homes. I wanted to take a couple of minutes today and have a conversation with you about the results of the Sitzer-Burnett case. So those of you that have been paying attention and following along, you know that there was a recent class action lawsuit, the Sitzer-Burnett case. And after that, the courts have decided that there is going to be their attempt at a little more transparency on how real estate professionals are paid. And in New Jersey, that has resulted in something called the New Jersey Real Estate Consumer Protection Enhancement Act. And that became effective as of August 1st. And for those of you going to open houses, you've probably noticed that there have been some changes. So I just want to sort of highlight those for you so you know what you're kind of getting yourself into and so that you know your rights as a consumer. So the first thing that has happened is that the sellers must now absolutely provide a seller's property disclosure. Okay, now that's a 6-page document, and it's basically a little checkbox form that sellers have to go into and explain things that they know about the home, like how old the home is, how long they've owned it, how old the roof is, etc. So anything that they know about the home, they have to disclose to the buyer, and you have to be able to have one before you make an offer on the property or before it goes under contract so that you can make an informed decision about relevant information to the home, right? I will tell you something, and just from a consumer perspective, this is a very difficult document for sellers to fill out. My experience has been, especially with, say, elderly homeowners who are trying to fill out the document, there's a lot of information that they're kind of just giving you their best guess because they don't know. And in that particular case, I would tell you, yeah, I definitely want the seller's disclosure. But what's more important to me when I work with a buyer client is that I want to do a very, very thorough home inspection. And that to me is way more important than anything else, only because the home inspector is going to be able to give you a lot more solid information on the house that sometimes even the homeowners aren't great at, because you can ask I'll be honest, I do this all the time. You ask a 91-year-old homeowner, hey, do you know how old your furnace is? And they're like, I don't know, and they're kind of giving you their best guess. So that home inspection, super, super important. The second part of this law that is important is designated agency is now allowed. So agency is basically the way that a real estate professional defines their relationship with you. So for instance, if it's my listing and a buyer comes to me and says, hey, I want to work with you to purchase this home, that would be considered dual disclosed agency for both the seller and for the buyer, because it's the same agent working on both sides of the transaction, okay? But now in New Jersey, we have this new thing called designated agency. And that's basically when a broker can appoint a different agent, right? Within the same brokerage, and both of these agents have full fiduciary responsibility to the respective clients. So the listing agent handles the listing side with full fiduciary responsibility, and the buyer agent handles the buyer side. And they can both be members of the same brokerage, and you're going to get full fiduciary responsibility, okay? That's a good thing to know. And by the way, New Jersey is a dual agency allowed state, and we've had great relationships and great situations with both designated and dual agency type of relationships. So hopefully you find a good agent who knows what they're doing. Number 3, buyer agency agreements are now absolutely mandatory. Now, just so you know, it used to be you would get a call from somebody who says, hey, I was driving by, I saw the sign, and I want to see this house. Well, now all buyers are mandated by law that they have to sign something called a buyer agency agreement before they can proceed to see homes with a potential buyer agent. Now, this document, which is, I'll be honest with you, it's brand new. We've had maybe 3 iterations of it, and it's getting better and better. But this agreement outlines the services that the client is going to receive and the duties owed to the buyer, right? To the buyer from the client but it also is a two-way street. And at the same time, it also outlines duties owed from the buyer to the client. And it is where the buyer and the buyer agent agree upon the amount of commission that they will be paid upon conclusion of the transaction. Listen, I'm pretty certain this buyer agency agreement is probably going to go through a couple more iterations before we settle on something, just because everybody at the national level, at the state level, we're all, even at the brokerage level, we're all still trying to figure out the best way to create a buyer agency agreement that works for both the buyers and also protects the buyers and the buyer agents. Number 4, there is now signage that's required at open houses. And these signs must be posted at open houses explaining that all agents who are at this open house represent the seller, unless the attendee, so the person who's attending this open house, decides to sign a buyer agency agreement and a consumer information statement, and perhaps decides to work with that particular agent. Okay, that can technically be done at the open house. It can also be done after the open house. It's really just once a buyer and an agent decide to work together for the purchase of a home, they do have to sign, but the signage is very clear and indicates that. So if you go into an open house and you start talking about things that could be confidential information, right? The listing agent should stop you, right? Anybody at the open house, because they represent the seller, they should stop you and say, hi, listen, technically nothing you're telling me right now is protected and confidential because we don't have a fiduciary relationship because we didn't sign a buyer agency agreement. So anything that you tell me can be revealed to the seller. So it's very important for the buyer to understand that. And it's also super important for the agent to know that as well, so that, you guys aren't put into a compromised position. So what would be best is if you stop that conversation and then you move to the conversation about buyer agency. And then once that's established, then this particular agent can help you with all of your home buying needs. And is a fiduciary, so therefore they will hold your private information confidential. Okay, FYI, the trigger points for that information is whether it's something about financial stuff or about your motivation as a potential buyer. Okay, number 5, buyer agents' compensation will no longer be published in the multiple listing service. So now that means that sellers can no longer advertise buyer agent compensation in the multiple listing or any website that is technically IDX fed by the MLS. So it can't be on Zillow, it can't be on Redfin, it can't be on Trulia, it can't be any of those places. However, compensation can be advertised everywhere else. So make sure that when you sign your buyer agency agreement, you guys agree to what kind of compensation that is being offered by the sellers you guys want to pursue in terms of the properties that you want to look at. Number 6, and this is the last one for the day, which is all licensed agents must complete new continuing education credits. So all real estate agents must complete CE credits in order to maintain their license every 2 years. And now this includes a new class on the definition of agency. Just so you know, every 2 years, we do about 12 hours of continuing ed, and 2 of those are elective courses, but 10 of them are what we consider core competency courses. And it's super important. That's going to be about ethics, that's going to be about contracts, that's going to be about the things that we need to do in order to be the best agent moving forward. Okay? And now we have a new agency class that's been added into that, and less electives. So what does this all really mean for you? Well, what it really means, and I think this is actually an advantage, which is moving forward, if you've been shopping and you don't have a buyer agency agreement, the truth is you really kind of don't have a fiduciary looking out for you. Fiduciaries only exist in a couple of different places, right? Attorneys are fiduciaries to their clients. Financial advisors, many of them are fiduciaries to their clients. Just so you know, in real estate, we actually have, as agents, we have a fiduciary relationship to our clients, whether it's to our sellers, whether it's to our buyers, and we establish those relationships through the agreements that we sign to represent them. And I'm gonna tell you, having a fiduciary work for you is actually really a big deal. I think a lot of folks think that, oh, you just walk in, you look at a house, you put an offer on it, you buy it. No, there are, at least for us, in Jersey and for my team, we have about 250 steps that we have to go through to get you from the house to the keys at the end. And it's really important for us to maintain your confidentiality and provide our best ethical behavior and our best practices for you, the client. So maybe what I'm trying to tell you is that this is a good thing. I'm telling you now, it's a good thing to have someone who owes you that confidence, who owes you that best practice, because that's what you deserve, because you're a consumer and you're making probably one of the biggest purchases and one of the biggest investments in your life. So I think having a fiduciary relationship is awesome because it means someone is there really looking out for you. Okay, listen, at some point, maybe I will come back and talk a little bit about some of the frequently asked questions that we're getting. But for now, I'll sign off, but I did want to give you guys a little bit of a taste of the new laws and how they've changed and how they're going to affect you, the consumer. Oh, and if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me, 917-992-3098. That is my direct cell phone. Yes, I give it out. And oh, by the way, listen, if you watch your videos and you think it's actually important what we're doing and the kind of information that we're sharing, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so that we can reach more people with all the information that we have, okay? All right, look forward to next time. Bye.